In this video, I'm going to give you a framework to help you improve your painting. So this is kind of a follow-up to last week's more motivational video that talked about, how to make sure you actually get, painting, how you actually get your hobby done. You actually take the time to make it happen. If you haven't gotten a chance to see last week's video, which people generally seem to like, you can check it out up here. Pachow. But the point is that video was saying you need to find the time. You need to figure out how to take the time so that you can do more painting and that you can, just actually do the hobby that you say that you do. However, and a lot of people liked it. I heard a lot of great comments, but there was a comment that was kind of running through some people's, messages saying, "That's great. I can paint more, sure, but how do I actually get better? That's really the goal, isn't it? Isn't it, best to be less crappy? That's really kind of, I think, a good goal, to be less crappy with your paint. That's what I try to strive for. How do you do that? Well, sadly, it's not simple. There's not a single thing that you can point to and go, oh, well, if you do this, that'll fix it all. There's no magic bullet in that situation. If you're a pro painter way up here, there's a specific thing maybe that might take you from here to here, but that thing won't work for somebody who's just started out and who's down here. You have to understand that painting in our hobby, everybody does it differently. Everybody has different standards that they paint to. Everybody has different techniques. So there's no single answer on how to make it so that you can be less crappy. Yet, less crappy is the goal. And so there's kind of a framework that I've always used on how to try to make it so that my painting gets better as I progress. It's relatively simple, it seems. But I figured if I kind of tell people about it here, and newer painters can take a look at this information and go, oh, okay, I see that. That's helpful. And potentially even painters who've been doing things for quite a while can kind of double back and look and see at their process and how they do things, and sort of it basically just breaks down what it means to try to improve. Quick and simple. Step one, you have to paint. You actually have to paint something. You cannot improve, particularly, your painting if you've never actually painted anything before. You have to paint something first, and then you can get done with it and then hopefully move on from there. Or, you may have painted years and years and years ago, but you may have forgotten a lot of it, and now you're getting back into it, and you need to do some actual paint. That's step one. Relates back to last week's video, but the fact of the matter is, paint something. And finish it. That's also a big deal. I talked, again, years ago, a video about finishing projects and actually getting them done. You can check that one out. Pachow, up here. Super important, not just to paint, but also to finish, because it leads into point number 2. Point number 2, look very objectively at the finished model. And if it helps you to write it down, or to put it into your phone, or to write it on a chalkboard, or you've just got a super great memory, whatever, go through and be very brutal almost, and try to figure out every last thing on the model as far as the paint was concerned, the things that you did. What would you have liked to make better? What's the bad parts of what you did? What's the, what are the things that you would like to improve on? Write those down, memorize them, put them on a whiteboard, whatever. And once you've really gotten, and you don't have to, it doesn't have to be 100. It might be just like there was 5 things that I really would have liked to improve on, or maybe you had a bad day, and maybe there's 10 things, but figure it out and actually identify them. Don't just look at it and go, I can do better. How can you do better? What did you do wrong, and what can you do going forward? Step 3 is pretty simple. It's now try to figure out how to improve the problems you found in step 2. If you're saying the paints are very, very thick, and they've filled in some of the, the details. Okay, well, that's a relatively simple fix. Go online and find out, how can I make it so my paints aren't so thick? And I can guarantee you will be told to thin your paints, which, many of us obviously hear all the time from people like Duncan on the Wargamers Warhammer TV, and you've heard it from me here, talked about the wet palette and stuff like that. Thinning the paint's super important, but there's all kinds of different things. Maybe you're unhappy with the way your metallics look. Maybe you're unhappy with the way your basing looks. Once you've identified in step 2 what the problem areas are, you just really simply have to go out and do a bunch of research. We sit right now upon the greatest informational system that's ever been, dreamt by man. And so you can use it to find out how to better paint your little plastic army men. Seriously, that's a great use for it. So go out and watch videos like these, YouTube stuff, blogs, whatever, anything, and then go through and do research, actually try to learn, that will work better if I do it this way. Then the next trick is to actually put those things into action. Step 4, I think it's step 4. Anyway, in this step, what you need to do is now paint another model. So you've painted a model before, learning, hopefully, and now you're going to try to actually put those things you've learned into practice. Now the trick is, in my mind, I like to try to focus specifically on one. If you have 5 things that you've picked out, and those are the 5 things that you need to really fix from that last model. If you have another model that actually ticks all those boxes, awesome. But only really focus on one of them, maybe 2. If you're feeling saucy, maybe say, all right, I'm going to try to do my metallics better, and I'm going to try to make my wash look a lot cleaner. But there are also 2 or 3 other things that I could try to fix, and if you get those, great. But focus. If you have a whole bunch of things you want to fix from your last model onto your new model, and obviously this works a little easier when you're painting a whole bunch of models that are the same, like, say, soldiers that are all wearing the same outfit, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can do it for any old kind of group where they're all a bunch of ragtag misfits, or, your post-apocalyptic war band, they don't all dress the same, so that's fine. But you can still generally use these techniques, hopefully, on the next model and to kind of learn something. The trick is that you've identified, you've learned, now you're going to try to fix on the next model, but don't try to fix everything. Don't try to hit all 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 points from before. Focus on, like I said, 1 or 2 and get better at that. And then maybe on the next model, maybe you can go back and focus on one that you didn't focus on in this one. And you see where I'm going? You're basically trying to teach yourself how to fix the problems that you're seeing in the past and then working towards the future. And I know now that I'm saying it, it sort of sounds stupid. But the fact of the matter is that more often than not, we work on a model, we're unhappy with it, and we don't analyze why. We don't look at it and go, well, what's wrong with this model? What did I do wrong? We just more often than not go, well, I'm just not very good at this. And really, because miniature painting is so much technique and not necessarily, there's skill, certainly, but so much of the early stuff specifically is just technique. I can teach a person who's never painted before. I can teach a person who's just walked off the street, and I can give them a model and tell them to paint it, and they'll get one result. And then I can just teach them 5 or 6 real quick things, and the next model will be 10 times better. And they didn't get smarter, they didn't get more talented, they just learned the techniques. Early on, when you're starting out painting, it's technique. It's so much technique. When you get to be, up trying to get a crystal brush, now you've got this whole extra level of skill and artistic, it's a whole different ball game. But when you're just trying to get little plastic people on the table, it's technique. So once you've painted a model, sit down, look at it, actually identify, write it on a piece of paper. These are the things that I don't like about it. These are the things I could probably try to fix. Then go do the research real quick, go online, YouTube videos, blogs, whatever, try to learn how to fix these problems. And then in the next model, don't try to fix all of them in the next model, just focus on a couple. And then once you got those kind of nailed down, you can start focusing on the other ones. But that's kind of the best way to sort of progress. If you just paint and then don't try to ever actually make anything better, you're never going to improve. You have to identify and then actually execute. See how it works out for you.